Hey crafters, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to make an outer space birthday card with crazy aliens and colorful planets. It's out of this world. So for this card, I'm going to use two main Lawn Fawn sets. The first one is called Superstar, and I'm going to stamp the cute little mouse in the telescope. But the main one is I Like You a Lotl. And I'm going to stamp 4 of these axolotls as well as 4 plants. And this stamp is actually the stamp that inspired this card, because for me, I like to start with a stamp and then I build my card around the image. So I started with G07 and blended this around the edge. Then I went in with my nice bright green, YG06, and put that everywhere else. Then I blended the two colors together until there was no definitive line between the two colors. And then I added the E00 over the axolotl's face. And then I added 100, which is black, over the axolotl's eyes and on his face, turning him into an alien. Lastly, I put some white gel pen highlights on my finished little alien. Now the colors that I used for the other images were quite straightforward, and I will list them in the description below if you're interested. Now this card has 3 planets on it, so I thought it would be a great chance for me to use my round 4-inch gel plate. On the first planet I used wilted violet and spread this on the gel plate. And then I used some Cosmic Shimmer Pixie Powder in Candy Pink, and I mixed this with water. Now I used my paintbrush just to spread this in lines on the gel plate, but as it's mixed with water, it will move around, which is fine. So you don't need to be this specific with the placement of the pixie powder. Just putting it in blobs would be fine, as you'll see on the next planet. Then I used a bit of Catherine Wheel, which is from Nuvo, and then also a bit of yellow. This is called Straw Yellow. And then I used a bit of regular paper, which I sprayed with water until it was completely wet. And then I pushed my gel plate onto this. And as you'll see, you get this beautiful reaction. And then I just moved it around with my finger to make sure it was all mixed, and took the gel plate off and left it to dry. And I cleaned the gel plate with my stamp chamois. On the second planet, I used Chip Sapphire Distress Ink. And I wanted this to be different from the Earth, so I didn't want it to be too blue. So I introduced some orange. And this is the burnt orange, the pixie powder. And I just put it in blobs all over the planet. One of the great things about making a card with aliens is that you can be as wacky or creative as you want with your color themes, especially on alien planets. So after the orange, I decided I needed a little bit of light blue, and I used Aqua Lagoon for this. Similarly, I took a piece of paper and soaked it with my sprayer and then pushed a jelly plate onto the paper. And you'll see that beautiful combination of blue and orange. And I'm just going to mix it to make sure that the powder has exploded and I get a wonderful combination of color. Now this one had a lot of liquid left over on the bottom left there, so I used my paintbrush and just spread this around as I didn't want it to dry in one area. And then I had to use my heat tool to set it to make sure that it stayed this beautiful. Now my final planet is the Earth. Now this one is really easy to do. You don't even necessarily need a gel plate for this, but I thought I might as well use it since I had it out. I started by blending some VersaFine Clair in 2 different shades of green and just put them in random places so that it looked like land. and then I used a panel of card and put some Salty Ocean Distress ink on this. Now, if you don't have a gel plate or if you don't fancy using this, you could skip the first step and just add the VersaFine Clair directly onto the Distress ink. So then I just press my gel plate onto the Distress inked panel, and you'll see I get this beautiful impression that looks perfect for my earth. Now I die cut the shapes using a 4-inch round circle, but I found that I wanted one of my planets to be slightly smaller, so I took the blue one and die cut it to 2.5 inches instead. Now once the ink was dry on my earth, I just went in with some Hero Arts Unicorn White and added some fluffy clouds to my earth. Just beautiful. So now the fun part, I'm going to work on my OuterSpace galaxy. So I took a piece of black card, and as you'll see, it's completely wet. And I took some random colors of Cosmic Shimmer Pixie Powder and sprinkled this on top. Now I wanted to create movement in the sky, so I achieved this by having the shimmer powders move around as I dried it with a heat tool. You could let this dry naturally, but you won't get the same illusion of movement, which you seem to get with the heat tool. Now once this was completely dry, you'll see it doesn't quite look as flat as it did at the beginning. So when I attach it to my card later on, I need to make sure that I use a nice strong adhesive. First, I'm going to add those planets though. So my Earth is going to go on one corner here, and my alien planet will take up most of my card, and the other planet will be a nice touch. And as you can see, I don't use very much of my earth, so I can save the rest of it for another card. I used a white PVA glue to attach these planets to my card and made sure they were dry before cutting off the excess from the edges of the card. I also trimmed this to 4.5 by 6.5. So now I'm going to attach my little telescope and my mouse on the left-hand side, so he's on the earth, and my alien plants. And I'm just gluing the bottoms of these, although there's glue on the tops, because I need to place my little aliens, some of them behind the plants and some of them in front. And I thought it would be cute to have this little one on an angle, so there's more excitement on the card, and the third alien is sort of peeking off. Now I wanted a bit of holographic paper behind my card to make the pixie powder stand out, but when I was using my double-sided tape to adhere it, you'll see on the left there that I didn't add enough of a frame on that side. So I wanted to show you how I fixed this. Holographic paper is quite forgiving, so I just lined up a little sliver that was the same width and taped it on the back, and then added some glue on the front, and the recipient will never know. Now from the same Superstar set, I just die cut a little speech bubble and stamped the word wow in it, and then I created a little banner with my sentiment. And the big happy birthday is actually from a Bug Deal stamp set. Now I used my 5 by 7 inch card blank here and lined up the panel on the front. And for the inside of the card, I used my 4th alien, which used to be my axolotl, and I glued him in the card next to the sentiment. Now the sentiment comes from the same Superstar set. This says, "Have a stellar birthday." And I stamped this in gold, enchanted gold ink from Altenew before adding a VersaFine outline that's a nice highlight to the word stellar. Now lastly, I'm just going to add a tiny bit more sparkle to my card. And I did this with some stickles. So using unicorn stickles, I added this to all the alien plants. And then using the waterfall stickles, I added this to the telescope. And you'll see after this dries, it creates a beautiful sparkle. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video inspiring. Be sure to subscribe so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. Have a crafty day!